Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Robots and Red Tape. As always, I'm your host, Nick Schutt, and for everybody who's out there listening, really appreciate you guys. You're what makes this show so successful. Happy to have my friends on with me today, Josiah Cushing and Jim Benson. How are you guys doing?
Hey, so far so good. It's only Wednesday, but no, all good. Nick, thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
really
thank you, Nick. I appreciate being here.
appreciate you both. So, for the folks that don't have the opportunity or misfortune to know you guys yet, what will you tell us a little bit about yourselves? Your backgrounds and how you got here.
Yeah, so I can start if that's all right, Josiah. Jim Benson, I'm the founder of Ratio Exchange. Uh, Kind of background is I grew up in the consulting world, spent 15 years at Booz Allen, many years at an 8A. And when all my kids got out of college, that was kind of a pay raise. So I went into kind of quasi-retirement, but I couldn't stay there for long. And I started to help startups and new organizations get greater access into the federal demand. And when we found we couldn't scale, we built a platform like everybody did, back in 2018 or so. And today, we've got we go to market largely in the defense space with something we call as a market as a service, and essentially allows organizations like DoD and civil markets to stand up marketplaces to solve problems and challenges faster.
Awesome. Really appreciate that. Josiah, what about you?
Yeah, Josiah Cushing, similar background. Booz Allen, Jim and I met around 1999, I think, right before Y2K, fun times. Then we continued a relationship in the federal space for another decade or so, uh, connected at one or two 8As as well. And so we've had a long career together, parallel and otherwise. And now I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Ratio, trying to take this platform, this marketplace, to market. Figure out how we can, disrupt some markets and provide value for customers of all shapes and sizes.
Absolutely. And I mean, we all know with like the FAR overhaul that just happened, there's like Federal, and we also know federal procurement is, let's just say, over is complicated, is kind of messy at times.
Yeah.
What inspired you guys to create Ratio as specifically, and what problem are you trying to solve with it?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Nick. And like any startup for the last probably 7 years, I think we pivoted about a half dozen times, probably even more. I got some advice a long time ago, from Josh Baer down at the Capital Factory, and he said, when you're starting a new company, just be really good at one thing. And not spend time on other things. Well, I didn't listen. We were like anybody else. Let's be everything to everybody. But where we've centered and where we've really arrived at is kind of a rapid acquisition platform, and that is disrupting the way that's large. Well, you have some organizations that embrace it well. You have other organizations that see it as a threat. But essentially, we want to be able to bring the entire market into opportunities to solve problems and challenges faster. Not certain people in contract vehicles, not this. It's kind of an open marketplace. And for those organizations that can put out challenges and opportunities to engage traditionals and non-traditionals, you can solve problems a lot faster. And I think that's where we've centered
Mhm,
now. And we've got probably a dozen different organizations that are going to market unconstrained
mhm.
to be able to source ideas and source new ways of doing things instead of the traditional way. And we've heard this a lot with a lot of acquisition reform. DoD and Hexvit and others have really started to push that we need to rethink how we do this. So if you're bold and you want to go to the market and you've got something that needs to get solved, then we're the platform.
fantastic. I mean, that's fantastic. And just how do you see this, disrupting traditional federal procurement, or is it just federal, or are you guys doing commercial as well?
We have a couple of commercial customers, and you would think that you would actually be able to go faster with that, but you face all the same challenges with supply management and
Mm-hmm.
others, and breaking policy, and can we really do this? So yeah, we've got some state, we've got some commercial, but largely on the federal side.
Okay. Mm.
And on the federal side of it, it's really better suited for OTA acquisition, other transactional authorities versus things that are more rigidly controlled under the FAR.
Yeah.
And so you have that flexibility and maybe not as much auditing that goes along with that.
Hmm. Absolutely. No, and how do you guys, both of you, define a digital ecosystem, in like practical layman's terms?
Yeah, that's probably pivot number 4 or 5. That we had to learn. I mean, we were naive to think of it. Well, we've got a great platform, and you can build an ecosystem. Well, in reality, everybody's got their ecosystem already.
Hmm.
It becomes, how do you connect them and connect them fast? And then how do you take that ecosystem, pump out or push out a challenge or an opportunity, especially with OTAs, where you can put money on contract pretty quickly. And there's other non-traditional vehicles that are out there. But the platform that we've built allows any kind of market to kind of assemble together and think about it kind of as a set of Legos. Whatever your market needs or whatever your ecosystem needs,
Hmm.
and how do you operationalize that quickly? And when I say quickly, I mean they're up and running in days. And you got markets that start very quickly, and then you don't need a market for that anymore. So we kind of we give them the ability to connect all their stakeholders fast, and then kind of center around that customer's problem or that customer's opportunity to solve things fast.
Hmm. Absolutely. No, and how do you and how are you incorporating AI into the platform? And also, what kind of stuff are people buying? Is it mainly goods, or are services as well? Is it kind of everything?
No, it's people are putting out a lot of different challenges. Give me are there any companies out there that have underwater drones with AI sensors that could help the Navy SEALs assess underwater threats faster? Or give me a self-tying, or is there anybody out there that's investing in boots that are self-tying? So there are a lot of different use cases, but largely they all stem from we have a mission. We've committed to. There are a number of outcomes that we want to get over the next, quarter, over the next 6 months, and we need to create transparency, mass transparency around our challenge to be able to get the greatest opportunity to solve it. AI, yeah, we've approached AI cautiously, and for good reason. Uh, we've played and we use all the models, whether they're Gemini, Perplexity, OpenAI. We use those. We integrate all of those models and even the submodels that they have for the best purposes within the platform. So, for instance, let me send you 100 different company profiles, or 100 different evaluations, and you can come back and tell me based on my scorecard who's likely best suited to be able to solve this problem.
Hmm.
So we take a very use case, or we put a lens on use cases and choose the right models as opposed to going all in on one model, because each of them have their strengths. Each of them have their own weaknesses. So
Hmm.
we spend a lot of time kind of analyzing and creating prompts and connecting data that can best help our customers.
You're not using DeepSeek though.
No, nope, nope. I'm not using that. And what's challenging about all of that is models are coming out so fast, and there are so many in the market, and yeah, we've started to build our own models around our own data. There's lots of models out there to leverage. But to be able to train that in a way that best represents what our customers need. So, like I said, we're approaching it cautiously. We're spending a lot of time on the validation of some of the results to make sure that our brand isn't or can potentially be damaged uh,
Hmm.
by some false narrative or false information.
Yeah. Have you seen problems with that at large, Josiah,
Well,
around
in
AI?
June, it wasn't it just a couple of days ago that we were getting hit with 3,500 attacks, right? DDoS attacks of some sort. So, that we got the attention of somebody out there. And so, you always have to be careful. We're looking at a partnership with Rampart AI to try to put up some guardrails, perhaps on the agentic AI side. We also use AI to do some grunt work, to curate profiles and go build out profiles and that sort of thing. And really kind of take the interface, the user interface from a UI to really a UX and really kind of focusing on the experience, the analytics, because it's all about speed, because this plays very well in the innovation labs, places where you have to find esoteric elements like Jim mentioned about the drones,
Hmm.
so yeah, we use it in a lot of different ways, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and I agree with you guys on the, I think it's great on specific use cases, but also like sometimes the same prompt will generate something like completely different things like day to day, right? And I think that that's fascinating as you see,
Yeah.
how these things are actually working. Like maybe they updated the model, they tweaked some stuff behind the scenes, and now you're getting entirely different results. And, the input side is always difficult that way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like for instance, we within a number of our apps, we've completely automated workflow. And let me give an example.
Hmm.
Um, Using AI to automatically build an evaluate or a balanced scorecard that assesses an organization based on cost and risk and technical feasibility and others. And it's crazy when you apply that same prompt to different models on how they come back with a scorecard because some of those um, they're completely counterintuitive. And you're like, that's just not going to work. So we have to spend a lot of time in leveraging what the models are good at, and then converting those into how do you translate a prompt response into a UI UX like Josiah talked about that somebody actually says, all right, well, you got me 70% of the way there, so thank you.
Hmm. Yeah.
On that note, just yesterday, I was using, we created a simple little interface to ping chat one, chat four, perplexity, and Gemini all at the same time and see what the answer set is. Just to, as we were trying to hone and figure out, which one to use in which scenarios. And somebody sent me a couple of, oh, I got these 6 patents. So I said, hey, go give me a 3 sentence summary on all these 6 patents. Well,
Hmm.
Perplexity and Gemini couldn't even respond to that. Chat GPT-1 gave me a bunch of stuff, and Chat GPT-4 gave me a bunch of stuff. And I looked at them, I'm comparing them side to side, and you would think they were talking about two different subject matters.
Hmm.
I was blown away how different they were. One's
Yeah.
like, this is all about blockchain. The other one's, this is all about services. I was like, I couldn't believe it. It was stunning.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I see that not just there, but also when you like, you're generating images, generating videos, what have you. Some of them just
Yeah.
do it way better. Some of them are able to edit them way better. And then like even day to day to day, um, like again, like I said, the same prompt, same everything will give different
Yeah.
results. And I just find it fascinating. Like, and you're absolutely right that like they are all over the place. And I think it really just depends on how they're actually talking and what they're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's also what we've learned is look, anybody can write code or should even get it ChatGPT to write your code to be able to get back a response. Um, it's though getting that response back and then being able to turn it into something that you can complement it on to have data that gives you actual real-time analytics. Here's an example. So yeah, using the scorecard example, yes, we can use ChatGPT with code to be able to automatically come up with a balanced scorecard with weight scores, everything else with it. But then when somebody goes to score that, you're not going to send all of the results to ChatGPT. You need to be able to build a framework underneath that that complements AI, but then you could start to do your own analytics on the data. Because a lot of folks that, for instance, they may post something in our platform that they don't want out in the open market. So we have to be cognizant around and protecting the privacy of those, so that we're not creating risk with them. Because anything you send out there ultimately is going to be used and capitalized upon to build their models.
Hmm. Yep. And even if you're paying for the models, they say they're not training on your data, but you just kind of got to take their word for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And I don't know how much you guys trust big tech, but you know,
yeah.
uh, my experiences with social media have taught me not to trust a lot of those folks. So,
I'm
it
not
is.
in the Microsoft data program. Let me just say that. So.
Absolutely. How does your guys' platform compare to something like a Tradewinds that's out there uh, with challenges?
Yeah, so Tradewinds is an interesting story because our platform actually was the first platform that they used to be able to launch what's now TradewindsAI.com. And back to the kind of market side of this, when we launched Tradewinds, we went from, and thinking about the ecosystem, probably within 90 days, we had 2,600 companies on it.
That's amazing.
So if you have the platform that are out there and you have the OTA like a Tradewin had, then totally you're driving. And we have customers that are so back up. So we supported Tradewin for probably about a year and a half, and then their direction went elsewhere, which we had an amazing relationship with their crew. But it is they had their own OTA.
Hmm.
So they had the demand side where they were reaching out to Army and Navy and everybody else coming in around how do we accelerate the adoption of AI. That's a market, that's an ecosystem that's amazing. We have the same thing now with things like Softwerx or DefenseWorks or other organizations that have similar missions. Maybe they don't have an OTA behind them, but Softworks has special operations who are launching or we're pushing challenges and opportunities on the platform. So Tradewin was big. It was kind of the first start, probably 3 years ago when we got going.
Hmm.
And back to that was probably pivot number two or three
Right.
as we learned who we wanted to be.
Absolutely. No, that makes sense. And I think that it's interesting to see the federal market specifically, like I don't want to say struggle, but try to like innovate itself out of the over-regulated environment that it happens to be, right?
Yeah.
Because like I mean the FAR overhaul, I don't think it really decreased the amount of regulation so much. I haven't done a deep dive on it yet. I should, but um, it's fascinating to see how they're trying to work this out and actually bring, especially as you look at AI specifically with the speed of development, and how quickly it all rolls out. Like you have to innovate from an acquisition perspective.
Yeah, it's what we learned is process and policy are, and it sounds so easy to say, but are massive constraints to open market opportunity. And there's people are scared, because rightly so, that can get out of control. And, you don't want to put out something in the open market, that is completely classified and top secret. Totally get that. But there are other things that you can push out there to be able to get open innovation and solve those faster. The challenge we have, and I listened to DoD around acquisition reform, and I've heard it for I don't know how many years. And maybe this is a time where you can actually start doing some of those things, because the minute that we put our platform out there and somebody says we want to be able to do this, the first thing that largely, probably 95% of acquisition experts think about is, can we do this and then ultimately it leads to, well, we can't do that in the FAR. We have to be fair. So we're seeing a movement towards this kind of rapid innovation, but only in certain missions that can afford themselves or actually need the open market to respond to.
Hmm. Yeah, and for both of you guys, what do you, having spent so much time working with the government in your careers, what do you think, like how do they need to shift culturally to
Yeah.
like embrace this and to meet the challenges that we're, needing to meet now?
Yeah, let's use Tradewind as an example. Um, there was a lot of people in the CDAO's office that framed this right, that could go to market with something like this, or like they did, that set kind of the pathway for a number of different organizations that are doing similar things, either with an OTA or without an OTA. So they're kind of trailblazers in that light. I think that in the future, acquisition needs to kind of put a lens on that around, what are the risks of us taking this out into the open market or not?
Hmm.
If and by doing that and just asking the question, can we do this? Can we kind of take something out there to the market? And can we put the right guardrails around there that protects it? I think that's a discussion that people need to have first, because these problems aren't going away. We need to solve things faster. There is talent, there is capabilities in the market out there. And you need an operating system, and you need a tempo in my mind that enables that. But you've got to ask the question first. I think where we struggle now is everybody is always falls upon the legacy process and the legacy policy that says we can't do that. So that's going to take time, though. It's going to take time.
I think the government is struggling on the requirements side, really. It's a very antiquated approach where you bring in, a vendor who's likely biased, come up to and write down a bunch of requirements in a certain format. That is a very stale way of doing it, especially when you're trying to pair that up with agile development. We think that should be an ecosystem, right? We should have, if you want to revolutionize the air traffic control system, you want to talk to baggage handlers, pilots, the whole value chain, and that can be a living, breathing thing. So the requirements can change on a temporal basis,
Hmm.
and that can continuously feed into your agile development program, platform, CI/CD, and all of that.
Hmm.
And that's where the real value is, I think. So I think there's a lot of work to be done on the requirement side.
Yeah, I completely agree because I think that like there's a lot of contracts that I've seen and people that folks have talked to is like, we built what you told us to, and it's not on us that it doesn't actually solve your problem, right? Like, And
Or it might solve yesterday's problem. It doesn't solve my current problem. Yeah.
correct, exactly. And I completely agree that we need to engage the stakeholders more and more of them and have, a ground up data collection approach. And like, I'm sure a lot of people would have terrible ideas, but there'd be some gems in there too. If the folks that are actually sitting there and doing it day in and day out, like, why aren't we having those conversations with everybody to actually understand what we're trying to solve? And I mean, you bring up the air traffic control system. I mean, that's a mess, right? It's been a mess. We have had planes hit the ground a couple times this year. And then also I think like the air traffic controllers themselves, we need more of them. Because that's a job that I just would not want to touch. But hey, I mean, intense concentration for like hours? Nah, it's not me.
Yeah, my niece is an air traffic controller, and you have to have a certain temperament.
Mhm,
There's no way that I could do that. But going back to something Josiah just said, or Nick that he had brought up, we've got a guy that works with us. That's we call him kind of the mad scientist, because he comes up with ideas that I typically say you're out of your mind. There's no way that I can even think about that. And probably 6 times out of 10, 6 to 12 months later, he was right.
mhm,
Um, and so ideas and insights and perspectives that may be completely out of touch today. One, being able to just have the area to capture this, just bring them together. Air traffic control. As Josiah said, you're right. Some of the ideas may be completely from a either a funding standpoint or from an operational standpoint, but they're ideas. And the insights you get from that, as opposed to I know the requirements. Now somebody go write those up. I mean, that's priceless.
mhm.
Especially if you think about modernization.
Absolutely. And it shouldn't be a top-down approach, I don't believe, right? It should
Yeah,
be a top-down and a bottom-up, right? Because like I don't care what bright idea you have at the top,
yeah,
if you need to actually have these conversations with the people that have been sitting there and doing it for years and years and years and years and years. And yeah, they're probably going to be very resistant to change at times, because change is inherently scary for people, right? Like,
sure.
but we should absolutely be, but I think they would be less scared if they were engaged in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some people that launched these things called collaboration events. And essentially they put out like a challenge or an opportunity and they ask industry, give me your ideas, give me your thoughts around this. And from what we've learned, if supply side has an access channel just to be able to talk about what their products and services could do, it's not a formal bid. It's not going in there and you're pricing against competition. They just need an access channel so people can understand what their insights are,
Yep.
what they've learned. And I think that's why people start to kind of gravitate to our platform because and while we do have some people that post formal things around submit your capability statement and others, it's the interaction between the supply side and the demand side that stimulates ideas.
Hmm. Yeah. No, and that's why, I think I told you guys we, have a nonprofit called Collaborations where we do small table design thinking events with government and
Yeah,
industry on site around a very specific problem statement. Our next
yeah,
one's in January. We're gonna have a bunch of COs and cores from across government out. It's hosted by the Lab at Commerce, which is their procurement innovation lab. We're
sure.
doing a whole day of design thinking specifically around evaluation criteria and how can the government do a better job of building evaluation criteria, to mitigate protests, and
Yeah,
increase trust and transparency in the overall process, because they don't know, like the government has one perspective, and the industry has another, and the only way you're actually going to come up with creative solutions to problems is by sitting down and having those collaborative conversations.
yeah, yeah, yep, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So it's yeah, if you guys want to come, I'd love to have y'all out. And
Okay.
yeah, so um and
And
then
plus, that's the fun part too. It's where the practicality is, right?
mhm.
And
Because they
that's
want to
what
fix the
you need.
problem too, right? Like they don't want to like they want to fix the problem. We all want to fix the problem because it would
Yeah,
make everybody's lives easier.
yeah,
But they need our help doing it, and we need theirs. So like, let's do something different and try something and have fun.
yeah.
Uh,
Sure. Yep.
and how do you see ecosystem, guys? For both of you, how do you see ecosystem platforms evolving over the next few years?
Uh, I've been leading, Josiah. Do you want to start, or do you want me to
Um,
go?
I think there's, there's a lot of fine technology that's coming out, with knowledge graph, and physical, physics-based processing. You talked earlier about you put out some input into an AI engine and it comes back with an output, and then you put it in another time and it comes back with a different output. Well, with physics-based processing, that doesn't happen. It's the determinative output. And so when you can get to that level, then you can start taking the people out of some of these processes because you have an automatic trust factor there. And then there's some data storage stuff that's coming, with synthetic DNA. You can put a zettabyte on a cube the size of a piece of sugar, a sugar cube rather. A zettabyte is 21 zeros, by the way.
That's crazy.
Um, yeah, so there's a lot of it's a couple of years out, but it's coming. And so there's a lot of fascinating stuff that's right on the horizon that's going to make
Yeah.
today look like it was 100 years ago, very, very shortly. So,
Hmm.
Yeah. So I, and I'm not trying to be kind of a Marvel kind of guy, but think about an ecoverse, right? And it's something that's starting to happen already within our ecosystem, but I can't imagine, or within our platform, but I can't imagine how it would scale. That you have an organization that has a profile. Like for instance, we've curated and built profiles for companies for probably close to 5, 6 million companies. And when they come into our platform, they'll claim their profile, and when they log in, we will look at their profile and say, we have for the systems that are open, we have a half dozen ecosystems that maybe you want to be part of, and you can join them instantly. So to answer your question, I think that over time, as these ecosystems or markets start to build in specific topic areas, maybe it's transportation, maybe it's AI, maybe it's energy, maybe it's grid, maybe it's smart stoplights. As these things start to build and people start to get around that, I see more and more kind of cross integration of ecosystems that then says we company A developed an amazing sensor to be able to assess traffic signals within stoplights. Could we apply that to the grid to be able to look at sensors that are on transmission units? So I think where it's going to evolve over time is the integration of these ecosystems, where people can jump in and jump out to find the best opportunities where they can solve things.
Absolutely. No, I completely, yeah, it's fascinating, and I agree with you. I think that something that you said, Josiah, is I think that like in the next couple of years, the pace at which society is going to continue to advance is going to continue to accelerate. And that's before we hit like, and I think like AI is the next wave. I think quantum's probably the wave after that.
Yeah.
Um, and as you start looking at, because I think like over half of all quantum companies that have ever been founded have been founded in the last 18 months. And as you start looking at where these things are going, and like it's wild, right? Like it's like I don't know how else to say other than it's crazy to see how these things are going to continue to develop and push forward and move forward.
Yeah, yeah. We look at where the money goes, and largely we've got a partnership with Crunchbase. So looking at where investments and where funds are going, and you're right, you can definitely see the trends there. And then probably 4 or 5 years out, on a lot of these early kind of trendsetters is, yeah, people are betting on new markets to come alive.
Hmm.
Uh,
I mean, they
yeah,
have
it's
to.
fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's really cool, and I think that like at a societal level, seeing some of the antiquated structures that are there now, right, and out here now, um, and seeing how that's going to change and evolve is going to be, I mean, it'll be something to watch. I'm looking forward to participating in it, seeing if we can all help make this a little bit better, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, us too. I mean, I think the market that we're betting on is that the that over the next probably 2 to 3 years, how you source solutions is going to fundamentally change.
mhm,
And I'm not saying how you procure them because I totally get that there are contract vehicles and pricing and T&M contracts and fixed price. So not talking about procuring them, but how do you source options?
mhm.
I think that is going to fundamentally change over the next 3 years.
Needs to like it
Yeah,
needs like incredibly inefficient ways, like releasing source of thoughts and RF, like I mean, like that's I mean, that's technology. That's like 80s processes, right? That's not stuff from today.
yeah,
Um, and we need,
it is.
yeah, we need to modernize, period, right? That's just how, like, we need to modernize in a lot of ways. Because I think that, like, if we don't, it's like we might get left behind in some places, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and you got things like OTAs and other non-traditional vehicles or funding paths or sources to be able to do that. So I think that's a piece of it. I think though the mindset of from the mission side, where the mission's got a problem, and then you've got the market that could potentially have a solution. It's the mission connecting with the market versus brokering it via some antiquated requirements management process that constrains actually innovation and probably doesn't give the mission everything they need to do at the time.
Hmm.
So I think that cycle, I think you're going to find missions jumping directly to market, and then the acquisition piece slowly catching up to respond as fast as they need it.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
and
think the regulation piece is the real wild card here, right? I think there's already a push, in the last couple of days, I think a senator came out and wants to prevent these LLMs from ingesting copyrighted material. Well, is that, that could be a national security thing, because the Chinese aren't going to have that restriction, right? And so then their models are going to be fantastically better than ours, quite quickly, and maybe already are. And so it's really the legislation. It's a
Yeah.
hands-off approach. I think in the big beautiful bill, right, they said basically no AI regulation for 10 years. I don't know, can't recall if that stuck or
I don't
not, but
think it did. I don't
okay.
think it did. I think it might have stuck that states can't. I think they're trying to say that all states can't regulate it, right? Can't regulate AI at their level, right? Which is, again, I mean, like in a state by state basis, that's just highly inefficient. As you look at these things, right? And then it's also like, are we talking about the companies based there, the users? Like it's just very complicated. And
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think that our approach should be to regulate the problems, right? Not try to like regulate the problems when they come up, not try to regulate them before they happen, because that's going to create more problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We responded to an RFI, I don't know, maybe a month ago, a couple months ago, and it was really focused on reimagining and reinventing kind of rapid acquisition.
Hmm.
And all of the background and why they wanted to do this was uh, we actually looked at this and said, we have a lot to be able to say to this. And so that was kind of part one of the RFI where we said, all right, we can't wait to respond to this. Part two of the RFI was we've already built all the requirements for the system that we want you to build.
Hmm.
And here's the database, and here's the data structure, here's this. They probably spent 6 months in building a rapid acquisition platform And what they were looking for people was just to build the platform. And by the time somebody builds that platform, it's going to be 2 years later. And
Hmm.
all of the objectives of what they really wanted to do, yeah, look, we could be in a new administration and they're like, we're not moving down that path. So
Hmm.
that's what I mean around that process has to get fixed, and you need leadership. You need people to be able to take calculated and controlled risks of being able to engage the market. Totally get it doesn't work for everything. But until we move off of the just go build me a system, engage in your market and engage in an ecosystem isn't about how do we connect all of our tools. It's how do we connect the people.
Hmm. Absolutely. Right. Why are you building the tool to begin with? It's
Yeah.
to help the people, help the process, right? And as you look at all this, you got to keep, I'm with you. You have to keep the mission in mind completely. So for the pitch for both of you guys, I'd love to hear why you think companies should join your platform and what kind of companies should be on there and what they get out of it.
Yeah. So our our licensing or our revenue model is we sell to demand customers, people that have missions, people that need to solve problems. And what they want access to is company profiles and AI and analytics to be able to find companies and organizations that can potentially help them solve problems. They do that via a set of tools that we give them to analyze what we call the market or ratios marketplace. That marketplace is completely free for anybody in industry to be able to go in, get an account, claim your company, and fill out your company products, services. If you got marketing material, you name it, it's completely free, and we will push you all the demand that we have, or we will match demand to your company profile. So,
Hmm.
so the value proposition, especially for those organizations that aren't deeply ingrained in the federal procurement ecosystem, is they can be discovered. They have transparency. They can be plugged into somebody or a customer's portfolio sitting side by side with Mantech, um, and or others, because our customers need capabilities, and we have a set of analytics where people can see, all right, well, whose portfolios and how many people have looked at me and think about it from a Google standpoint. But the biggest value proposition is get your stuff in there so that you can be discovered. Then we give away a ton of tools, like, for instance, CRM tools or opportunity management tools. I mean, we're not trying to be the next GovWin or something else like that. But what we try to do is create a zero barrier for them to put in their information so that they could be discovered.
Awesome. Josiah, anything to add on that?
No, I think that's perfect. The discovery is key. I'm kind of part of my job is to allow Jim to keep focus on the core mission, because we have people saying that, well, this, it's kind of like when Salesforce first came out. Oh my gosh, it can do everything shy of flipping a burger, basically.
Hmm.
And so there's a little bit of that with ratio, and so. But that esoteric discovery is really powerful. I mean, you can find people with early stage patents, and maybe you could find people that have patents that might be joinable, or create a patent pool and take that to market. There's a lot of untapped value in there, and I agree with Jim. It's about the discovery.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, really appreciate it, guys. Anything else to add? Did I forget anything? Forget to ask you guys anything at all?
Uh, no. Other than when we can get together and taste some beers.
Oh
Uh,
man, I'd love to do that. Let's make
yeah.
that happen.
Make that happen.
Let's make that happen, man. Let's somewhere in between this time, okay?
Yeah. No, Nick, I appreciate. I appreciate you getting us on, and Josiah, kind of thanks for your time. Look, we know, and we're a small company, and with somebody that leads strategy, somebody that leads customers, somebody that leads tech, and somebody that leads sales and BD. Um, and we do that on purpose because what we're doing right now is a bet that you have a lot of people that are taking on this on a market that's coming up. And so far, it seems to be paying off, and we have a lot to learn. So I'd really be interested. I mean, if you hear any people or get any comments from people that those guys are off their rocker, whatever else. Just like our platform, we're open for any ideas, insights. We just want we see the problems and we see the challenges in the market, and why not? Why the
Yeah.
hell don't we give it a shot to fix?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Like somebody's got to do it or nothing's going to change, right? And so I'm with you. I'm here for the innovation. I'm really happy you guys came on. This is super fun. It's
Oh,
been
good.
really interesting to learn. I've already sent it around to a couple folks that I know that definitely need to be in the platform. So, yeah, man, love to see what we can do and really appreciate you all. Thank you both so much. And everybody who's been listening, thank you so much for listening to Robots of Red Tape. I hope you're having a great day.